Welcome to the Skeptic's Guide to Investing with Steve Davenport and Clem Miller. Every 2 weeks, Steve and Clem bring you brief investment insights you may not find anywhere else. We hope you enjoy today's episode. Here are Steve and Clem.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Skeptic's Guide to Investing. Today, I'm very excited to have my good friend and fellow CFA, Gene Natali. Gene is, Mr. Financial Literacy. He's been working for the last 15 plus years in this space. He was cutting edge when he came out with a book called Missing Semester, which talked about how everyone's education is missing one semester, where we focus on personal finance and investing. Everybody should have the ability to succeed financially. And I believe what Gene is doing with Troutwood and other things, Troutwood is the application that he's developed and built with his team. And I think what he's doing and what he's done is a great story of American ingenuity. I believe that we all have a journey and we all get started somewhere. So as I introduce Gene, I'd love him to talk a little bit about where his desire and drive for financial literacy came from. And, I don't think it's any different than where, it came from a lot of people who are creative and energetic. But I'd love to hear, Gene, just a little bit about your financial journey and how you started.
Steve, thank you for that introduction and for the friendship. It's hard to believe we've known each other as long as we have now. But I'll
accidents happen. A Steeler fan and a Patriots fan can coexist.
Absolutely, and make each other stronger. So I appreciate the introduction. We are 100% aligned on everyone deserving equal financial opportunity, but entering that playing field from different backgrounds and different points of life. And I think that's been one of the historical challenges. Your specific question was what was where my drive for this topic came from. I'll share a very short bio introduction while answering that question. I grew up in institutional asset management. So after college, I entered institutional sales, spent close to 2 decades getting to know how large pension funds, large financial institutions, large endowments invested their capital and planned for the future. Simultaneously, I took an interest in personal finance based on experiences I had while attending Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business, seeing brilliant minds navigate this very difficult curriculum, become real-world decision makers, but at no point in their careers being taught the basics. We could graduate students who could do complex option modeling, massive debt and big misunderstandings of what that meant. So the title for the book that you alluded to, The Missing Semester, was very catchy at the time. There's a lot of good work being done across the country. If I wrote it today, I'd probably have to retitle The Missing Semester. But it didn't come from a personal opinion that I wasn't taught this stuff or I was ignored. It was looking at folks in their 30s and 40s who, Steve, despite great jobs and great educations, were living paycheck to paycheck because they hadn't been taught this subject.
Yeah. No, I think it's sad. And I've looked at this and, I've always given you the analogy that it feels like with financial literacy, we're just trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose. And I think that, what you're doing is inspirational in terms of you saw a problem, you saw a need, and then you went after trying to solve it. And I'd love to, hear more about you had a second book, right, after Missing Semester, and Troutwood and how it got started. And I think our listeners would love to, everybody wants to start a new AI company. You were, kind of in the forefront of trying to use technology to help people. And I think it's a great story. Tell me about Troutwood.
Absolutely. And I love your garden hose analogy. Steve, we have a $14 trillion retirement shortfall in America. The finance industry has failed the average American. I'm generalizing with that statement. So not
No, I think you're accurate. I think that, first of all, we're just now getting to the point where we have 401ks for all. I mean, if the pensions went away 20 years ago, why now are we giving people at the lower economic levels an ability to save in a 401k?
Yeah.
And it takes 30 years to realize that this is a problem for everyone. Retirements are not funded by pensions anymore. It was a time, and those days are gone. And nowadays are 401ks. But this is a 70s development. And we're just now getting to the point where I think we can say that everyone has availability of a 401k, which is nice. But now we're going to start to put crypto and private equity in them.
Yeah.
I think that, we need to help people. And I don't know where you think the greatest need is. We can maybe talk about that in a little while. But in this 30 minutes, I want to, get people some help. And I think that, I will include whatever links to your materials and ideas that you would like. But just tell us a little bit about what Troutwood tries to do. Because I know the app from 5 years ago. I don't know exactly how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, about 5 years, to touch longer. You are correct, Steve, that accessibility is being solved for. Speed, we're not moving fast enough as an industry. White label IRAs are a possibility, and we're not running to them. My understanding, my belief, and the principle for founding Troutwood is we were lacking a cohesive and connected planning, engagement, and incentive platform. We built a platform that, through technology, will allow financial advisors and financial institutions to seamlessly and frictionlessly scale their business, their practice, through technology, while inviting their customers and their prospects and their next generation into a platform that makes communication and guidance easy. That's a very high-level summary. Let me go one step back, though, how and why. The Missing Semester has crossed over 1 million readers. I am extremely proud of that. I keep that quiet. I've never posted that on a social platform. But what I almost made a mistake with the book, and that same mistake almost made a Troutwood. So consider me a slow learner. When I first started writing The Missing Semester, I was writing like every finance book. I was writing everything I had learned at Carnegie Mellon through, getting the CFA designation, expounding all this finance information that people had to hear. And I remember I was 15 pages into chapter 1. I thought, wait a minute, is anyone still reading?
Yeah, I mean, did you solve the pricing of the options?
No, I shredded it. I said, this has been done. There's a lot of thick books out there espousing what the finance industry knows. There's not a short, actionable book.
Yeah.
Missing Semester is a Money 101 actionable book. The Missing Second Semester is Investing 101. Troutwood take that same philosophy, because after giving my 1,000th presentation on the Missing Semester, on personal finance, and giving a room full of fist bumps, I said, geez, fist bumps aren't enough. You could 10x these fist bumps, but there has to be an action step if we're going to move the needle. And it's not enough to keep sending speakers into rooms. We need to lift up and empower an industry if we actually want to move the needle. And Steve, the pinnacle of this was 2019, a meeting at the United Nations headquarters, where a couple of the board members said, don't stop what you're doing. The world needs good software in this space. So Troutwood took the same Missing Semester philosophy of simple, easy, actionable.
No, I agree. It's, we tried to do something with videos because we felt there was, honest advice about what people should do without an incentive from, the financial firm who sponsored the videos. We wanted it to be nonprofit. We wanted it to be non-product. We wanted it to be non-biased. And we tell some hard truths about people doing their budgeting and, why spending is a dangerous animal to try to control. And you've got the world of retailers who want you to pass that phone over the checkout line, and they want you to just hit that big blue button because it makes people feel good when they click on and they buy something. And we're trying to, preach to people or to educate people in a way that others haven't. And it's not because they just didn't feel like it. It's difficult. And it's difficult to get people to say, don't consume today. Delay gratification for some tomorrow. Just those two words, delay gratification. This is 2025. We have attention spans of 7 to 8 seconds. You know what I mean? This isn't 1975 where you had 1 minute attention spans. You've got to really think about how your messaging can affect the most people and affect the most lives. And I agree. It's, you are taking the next step from some education. Okay, now how do I implement the solution in a way that's going to set up my 401k account, look at the areas I can live? And I think you still had that part of your application where you said, hey, if I got a job here or here, let me compare what the budget would be for the two locations. That was great thinking, because college students, guess what? I mean, they're not, I've been in front of those 100 college students and got those fist bumps, but I sit there and I say, this is a college of, at Georgia with 34,000 students, and I've got 100 of them. Okay, I always feel that there's more, and your pursuing technology was, I think, a way to quickly transmit those ideas and those disciplines and those questions to people so that they could succeed. And I guess I ask is, in the world of AI, where does Troutwood?
Yeah. Quietly doing some great work. So we've built secure AI. Our individual users have AI that reads their individual financial plan. Our enterprise and financial advisor partners have AI that sits over their participant, employee, customer, cohort base. It's secure, which means we boxed it in on top of the open AI platform. I think that's extremely important. Finance industry trust is non-negotiable, which means you should be using secure AI.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to divert too much into the industry because I'd rather keep it positive. But I'm a little bit, troubled by what I see with companies and banks, and it feels like banks could easily turn into utilities the way that they're doing things. And
Steve, I'll put an aggressive comment on top of that. Banks and financial advisors have a generational opportunity to own their future if they act. They have the opportunity to be the center of an individual, of a small business's financial life if they choose to act. And the opportunity, the consumer and the small business are begging for it. I hope that the industry hears, sees, and acts. Our platform was built to empower it. So I say that very selfishly and very biasly as someone who believes it, but I'm seeing it from both sides of the barbell.
Well, I just look at, the average individual and how are they able to, get past inflation and understand inflation and what does it impact and how does it impact and how can I immunize myself somewhat from it? Should I be buying inflation-linked bonds instead of treasuries or corporate bonds? I think there's a lot of work that we as an industry of investment professionals, but just finance professionals, I think there's plenty of room in this, in this boat. And I want to get in the boat and start, paddling, because I think that we've got a long journey ahead of us. So I guess, how do you see can you just give me a beginning to end of how you would like someone's financial education and implementation to go? So a student comes to you and says, hey, I want to do a financial plan. We give them Troutwood, they do the financial plan, then the financial plan undergoes some rigor in terms of where do you work and how much do you make and what is your savings amount and how much do you want to spend? And I guess, is there, do you still think the 50, 30, 20 kind of model works? Or do you think we're, as a society, is life becoming more like 60? And the savings is going to 10, because that's what it feels like when I talk to my kids and people around me, that life is more expensive. And I don't know where you get that 50%, Dad, but it's, and the place that I don't want to give up is my, wants. The place that I unfortunately see people giving up is their savings. I mean, how does the model of today, just like asset allocation needs to include alternatives, does something else need to be in there for inflation?
We'll be right back.
We hope you're enjoying our episodes. If you are, then we'd greatly appreciate your liking, following, and sharing. Help us help others. Now let's get back to the discussion.
So I'll answer both questions. The first was the student who approaches Troutwood. In Troutwood, we have 3 products. We have Troutwood Basic, which is a career exploration, cost of living modeling, investment modeling that gives an individual their first working financial plan from a data set of about 115 million unique data points. The reason that matters, and one of our strongest KPIs at Troutwood, is nearly 100% of our student users complete their plan. That's a massive data point.
Nice.
What that means is they're now entering the real world informed. What they do with the information, as has been true in all of history, is up to the individual, but we can at least help graduate a more informed student.
Yep.
Our 2 follow-on products are Troutwood Pro. Troutwood Pro is our living, breathing financial plan that helps guide an individual to their retirement or financial goal in partnership with a financial advisor, bank, employer. Any of those 3 silos. We need support. Right now, we push individuals out on a lifeboat and say, good luck with your financial life. We're building a world where they'll have the support of all 3 of those partners. The third and final product is our engagement and incentive platform that is administered by the advisor, the bank, or the employer to help that individual understand where they're going and why.
Yep.
That's the journey that we've built. So it is an end-to-end full platform from as young, and Steve, some of our strongest users are early teens where they have a paycheck and a Roth IRA, and they love having their financial life in one place. So lesson learned, bank, our financial advisor partners are hearing that and beginning to act. The other question you asked, the 50, 30, 20, it depends on when that individual chooses to start. The earlier they start, right? The different numbers are versus the later they start. Gosh, if you wait till really old, it's 100% safe.
Behavior. I've always had this debate about where does financial literacy start and how do we do it such that it becomes ingrained in their personality. And, we were reading to 2nd and 3rd graders because if you can help people with that delay in gratification, they become better, ultimately, financial literacy candidates. And I still believe that, it's up to families, and I believe it's up to educational institutions and church and other places to supplement what is your message to people. Because guess what? If the students become better with their money, I think the beneficiary is going to be the university. They say, hey, they taught me.
And the community and the employers.
Yeah,
Steve,
it helps the stability of the employees. It helps the lifespan. It helps them, have less stress and be healthier. There's tons of benefits. And you and I don't think could spend 30 minutes on benefits alone, and the conversation would be incomplete. I really would love to get from you is, where do you see the hotspots of areas that are very difficult to solve, and where do you see success really coming to fruition, such that we should promote those people who are pushing success, and we should encourage and support those people who are trying to deal with the most difficult situations. I had a group in Orlando that was going after people in homeless shelters, and trying to help them with everything to get their life back in order, including financial literacy. And my point of view was, boy, that's taking on a big piece, a big piece of the pie, right? And I guess you're cutting this pie every day, trying to figure out, what do we do for middle age? What do we do for starting career? What do we do? Like, where are we really getting it right? And where are we still having challenges?
It's a giant question, Steve, and I will answer it.
Well, you're a giant of this industry, so I would expect that.
I've been working tirelessly at solving that for 15 years, and I'll preface my answer. We've got a client in Brownsville, Texas. They're a very poor region of Texas. It's called Troutwood, a gift from God. We work with Virginia Commonwealth University. Their financial wellness center won Financial Wellness Center of the Year last year.
Nice.
State of Virginia's Commonwealth Savers program has taken the unique step of empowering their employees with Troutwood platforms. So you're seeing folks start to tiptoe. And the reason I am saying that, the analogy that you give in the loaded question, what if the pieces that you suggested were parts of the equation and not the whole equation, the community, the church, right? The employer. What if the financial industry led like the dental industry?
Right.
Brush your teeth. Every parent is saying, brush your teeth before bed. What if every parent was saying, did you save and invest $3 today? Because the financial industry took time to understand, wait a minute, we have a $14 trillion shortfall because of our past mistakes. What if we solve it starting now? And that's 14 trillion of assets moving forward. If we started to play offense, personal opinion, way too much financial literacy education has been token. I was there, gave a presentation, check the box. No. The audiences that you mentioned, not everyone grew up with a Wall Street Journal on the dining room table, right? You walk in at this time, there's going to be kids doom scrolling on TikTok. We need to look them in the eye and say, you can do this. We need to bring analogies like brushing your teeth that they can relate to. And they have to touch and feel it. We have a fourth product I didn't talk about, but we're very proud of it. It's a map of the stock market. Student users over an hour and a half in our map each month on average. Why? It's no different than cheering for your high school football team or the Patriots or the Steelers. They are proud of the companies in their communities because they know people that work there. The future of investing isn't PE ratio versus Sharpe ratio if we want to include the non-investors. It's understanding that my mom, my dad, my aunt, my neighbor works at Dick's Sporting Goods, and connecting the dot that when they walk in, they can own a share of Dick's Sporting Goods. They can be a part of this system.
Yep.
So I think it has to start at the top, Steve. The industry has got to step into a leadership role. Banks, financial advisors, technology will be a part because technology creates the scale that makes possible what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, I have an advisory board for our firm, Circuit Capital, and on that board is a young RIA. And his idea that we're trying to work our way out of is to come up with a portfolio for the people in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia of companies that are in our community that we feel like if people own the companies that they see around them and work on, they would feel much better about their investments because they know when they go to Dick's or they know when they go to, online to get a Microsoft package, they'd say, hey, I own some shares of this. And I think that the investment industry customizing for people and saying, you live in this state, here's a the top 20 employers are these companies, and they're in your portfolio. And that to me is one way as an industry we can get people to behave better, because ultimately we can give people education, we can give people tools that they can implement, but it's the behavior, stupid. And that's kind of it's the economy. It's obvious that behavior as an individual at 19, 20, 21, you would love to see good discipline and things occur, but you know what? It's pretty damn hard to get a job. So I can understand why people are job first, financial literacy later. I think you might pick a better job and have better determination of results if you got the financial literacy as you were looking for the job and you incorporated those factors in your decision making. But I think that, one of the questions I have is, how are we distributing Troutwood, and how easy is it for, if we include Troutwood.com on our podcast, what will be the result, or what can I do for people who are listening to help them with Troutwood as an advocate and as a tool?
Thank you for that question, Steve. For the podcast link our map of the stock markets, because it's an actionable fun tool in our basic application, which is free, and it's out there for anyone to build their financial plan. Today, we don't have our pro product or enterprise product on our website, but individuals can DM me directly. I can give you my email address, all of my social contacts, etc. And that's intentional. That will change. Our website is, we're building what as a software company could the buy now button, where any financial advisor, any financial institution, any employer of any size will be able to hop on, buy their licenses, and get running.
Yeah, I mean, are you keeping track of some of these stories? I mean, I'd love to read about this Virginia Commonwealth and the Brownsville, Texas person, and because to me, those inspire me to, we can create a what I'll call a center of excellence in different, here's an RIA who's a center of excellence. Here's a school that's a center of excellence. Here's a church that's a center of excellence. Because to me, I think people are looking for a solution here. And I think that the world, because of our lack of attention span and our complexity of all the problems that are being dealt with daily, it's hard to get to cut through the fog and get to where it really can help people.
I love that. Steve, I believe so strongly what you said. I started a business. That's Troutwood, right? The world is looking for inspiration. It's demanding it. And I remain stunned that the three we keep saying, this broad industry, but why are employers not responding? Get back those 20 days of productivity. It costs a few bucks to implement a Troutwood-like financial wellness tool. The ROI on that is stunning.
Right.
What are they doing? That historically, we've just put just good enough tools to check the box. I want to speak really quickly to your CFA and CFP audiences, because you hit on something very important with that community touch that you talked about 3 minutes ago. We live in an industry that is focused on alpha, outperformance, finding the right stocks. What the finance industry has missed for years is the delta, the difference between doing nothing is far greater than the alpha from the right or wrong stock pick.
Right.
Have to involve people in this system. It's inspiration, but it's inspiration that drives action and makes them feel confident that this is a story I want to be a part of. I trust my money that I work hard for in this system. That, in my opinion, is a big, big area where we are failing, is ignoring the delta, the difference of doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to look at the communities and say, okay, there's 35% of the population that I would say is challenged or, fragile. And then I would say there's another 30% that is trying to rise up. And in that stage, they've got a lot of challenges. They need a lot of tools, but they do have jobs and they do have personal lives that they could potentially get. And then there's what I'll call the college-educated rest. And that college-educated rest, they have a lot of advantages and they're going to have a lot of success. But there's a lot of people in there that still don't do things, very logically or very helpful to their financial wellness. So, I mean, I want to help all three groups. In the last couple of minutes, can you just kind of say, what should we as individuals, whether it's donate to charities that help with food and support mechanisms, donate to, groups for the middle that help with education, and donate to groups that are kind of reaching out and using social media to go after that top 30. I don't know how we make a difference, but we've got 1 minute to figure out how.
Give a hand up, not a handout, right? Where people choose to donate their money should always be personal, and it's an important impact tool. But no different than that analogy I gave on looking at past and saying we're $14 trillion short. How do we make that a $14 trillion offensive move for the industry moving forward? It's no different. If we empower a generation to act, it will massively move the needle and outweigh any charitable impact. So donate your money in the areas that are important to you as a human being and teach people how to build better lives. Create an action step.
That's great, Gene. That's a great point for us to end on. I mean, I think all of our listeners, I'm going to, cover this podcast with a lot of ways to contact and reach out and see some of Gene's good work. But I really want everyone to try to think about, is there someone you could help? Is there someone who's having financial questions and challenges? Help them, share this information about this tool. And, if everybody who reaches out to 2 or 3 people, we can start to make a real difference. So, Gene, thank you very much for being here today. And I'd love to come back when, we have another moment in the sun for financial literacy and your firm. I'm supporting you. I believe in you. And I hope all my listeners will too. So thanks for being here today.
Steve, likewise, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone listening.
The views shared on this podcast represent the personal investment views of the hosts. They are for educational purposes and not meant to be taken as investment advice. Listeners should consult their own investment, legal, and tax advisors. Past performance of any investments is not a guarantee for future return.